So after long years of waiting, the highly anticipated Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice film is finally here, and I'm here to give you my thoughts about it. I don't know where to start with this movie, to be honest, but I guess where I could start is where it all began, so to speak. The movie's been anticipated for the past 3 years, pretty much since Man of Steel came out, actually. And I guess when the news broke that Ben Affleck was going to be playing Batman / Bruce Wayne, such an iconic character, the internet took a collective dump on the fact that he was announced to play such, a huge role. I guess, following from Christian Bale's performance from the Dark Knight trilogy, a lot of people just, they didn't really give Ben Affleck a chance. Ben Affleck was a great director. He's come a long way since the early 2000s, and I'm speaking of, films such as Daredevil, and that one atrocity that he made with Jennifer Lopez, which I can't even recall what the name of it was. I've never seen it, but even I know that it was terrible. Another thing that the internet took a collective sigh upon was the fact that Jesse Eisenberg was cast as Lex Luthor. And I'll admit, I was one of the many who was displeased with the fact that Ben Affleck was casted as Batman and that Jesse Eisenberg was going to be playing such a huge villain, because I couldn't just quite grasp how exactly would somebody like awkward and quirky like Jesse Eisenberg would play such a imposing villain. He's, very much a huge role, just as much as the Joker is to Batman in that way or whatever, so I just couldn't really wrap my head around it. Same goes for Ben Affleck. I was just among the many as well who just kept referring to Daredevil, Daredevil, Daredevil. No, it should have been Christian Bale, but, they gotta kind of move along and branch off into different territories and do their own thing. Once, I guess, the set photos and everything started coming out, I got a little bit more behind the film. I thought the Batsuit looked incredible. It was definitely more comic booky inspired. And then when the official images of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor came out, especially when he was bald, I really liked the way he looked. He looked a lot better. Of course, you got him with that silly wig or whatever, but, it is what it is. So the first half of this film I really enjoyed, in my opinion. It was very political-esque in the sense that, it had the world trying to figure out if they were behind or against this alien god-like Jesus figure coming down to Earth. And I kind of liked the concept that it was grounded in reality, because it almost makes me feel like that is exactly how society in real life and, in our world would react if some sort of god-like humanoid just came down from Earth, to Earth, I should say, had a massive fight with another alien, the world almost ending, and this, that, and the other. You got your skeptics saying, like, here's this guy with these completely, again, godlike powers doing this, that, and the other. It's going to scare a lot of people. And then you get the other half of people that are like, oh, this is exactly what we need. We need these types of figures around to help keep the world in balance and, stop any huge threats. So I really like that aspect, that whole element of the film. Henry Cavill, he does an amazing job as Superman and Clark Kent. Although I do wish that there was a little bit more Clark Kent in the film. I don't think we got that quite enough. I really like when he plays the Clark Kent character. Although, there was a lot of that in Man of Steel because they told the origin story and this, that, and the other. As far as him as Superman, I really like him as Superman, especially towards the latter portions of the film when he gets a little bit more imposing, more threatening, more dangerous. Not to delve into spoiler territory quite yet, I'll leave that more towards the end of the review, but Henry Cavill does a fine job. Now on to the next character that I'm going to talk about is Ben Affleck. A lot of people just didn't give this a chance when the news broke that he was cast, just as I mentioned earlier on in this review. And once he finally came on screen, I enjoyed it. I really, I bought into why he felt a certain way about Superman and this and that, and I thought he did a good job as sort of like an older Bruce Wayne. Jeremy Irons as Alfred, I thought he was very funny, he was very charismatic. I really enjoyed him. Almost like a blend of sort of like the animated series Alfred mixed with Michael Caine, but he also made it his own. He was more of like a suave, sophisticated type Alfred, if that even makes remotely any sense. going back to Ben Affleck, I really enjoyed his performance as Bruce Wayne, and then once you finally get introduced to the Batman character, I really liked how he was very much batty, so to speak. There was a scene where he's just hiding up in a corner, and it's like, yeah, if I was a criminal or a cop, like, I'd be afraid to come face to face with Batman as well if he's just hiding up in a corner like an actual bat, and even like zooming around like against the walls and stuff and zipping away like an actual bat. I thought it was very cool that they went that route with Batman. There's a lot of criticism with some of his moral code, so to speak, which I'll get to again later in the spoiler section of this review. But other than that, I really had no complaints. Ben Affleck knocked it out of the park. I think he was aware of the pressure that there was playing this character and sort of the backlash that he received on the internet. So I'm sure, at least in my opinion, that he knew that he had to own up and live up to some of the fans' expectations, and I really do think he took the ball and just ran with it. I thought he did a phenomenal job. I loved the look of the Batman suit. The voice I didn't have a problem with because they established why he had that sort of voice, and it was something that Alfred was implementing into the cowl to give him that distorted voice so nobody could really tell who he is, his identity and stuff like that. Batman kicked major booty all over this movie. Bruce Wayne too he had that suave, sophisticated-esque type feel to him, but more grizzled. Really, I had no complaints about Ben Affleck. I kudos to him. He did a great job. Now, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, she wasn't quite in this film as much as I thought she would be, and that's a good thing, because they're saving her more for her standalone film, the Wonder Woman movie, which is coming quite soon. I believe sometime next year. The parts that they did show of her in this movie, I thought she did a great job. I think she was another one that came under fire when she was cast as Wonder Woman. I had no complaints with her. She said very little, which is good, because it keeps that mysterious type vibe to her as well. Her and Ben Affleck had very good chemistry as well, which is something that you need because that Batman and Wonder Woman character, they do have to have that ability to mesh. They have it in the Justice League animated series, and I thought they did a great job. I thought Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot fed off of each other very well, and then when she finally like put on the costume, like it looked great in action. She did very well. The action scenes with her were very well done. She was another one who kicked major booty in this movie as well. I do wish they had her a little bit more in the fight scene, maybe if the fight scene was a little bit longer, but you know, for what it was worth, I guess the less is more aspect was the good route. Again, they're saving her for her standalone film, which I cannot wait for. I'm sure it's going to do well. She was one of the aspects of this movie that I was most looking forward to, and I don't think it disappointed. In fact, I think that she was one of the better parts of the film as well, the Wonder Woman character. Kudos to her as well. She definitely trained hard for it, so very well deserved. On to the part that I was really looking most forward to was Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal as Lex Luthor. When the trailer came out, we got sort of a bit of a sneak peek, if you will, if you even want to call it that, and a lot of people immediately just pooped on it yet again because it seemed like more of this same type of quirky awkwardness that he does in most of his other performances in other films. Just sort of seemed like he was just sort of phoning it in almost in a sense, and I was a little bit worried as well when the trailer broke, and the trailer was very much spoiler filled, but you know, it is what it is. It's already out there. Going into this film and actually finally getting to see Jesse Eisenberg portray Lex Luthor, in my honest opinion, I think he was one of the best parts of the film. Yes, he was a little bit over the top. Yes, he was a little bit crazy, just like this wig is right now, so I will take it off. But I feel like that's what kind of made it stand out amongst, you know, some of the other elements of this film. I enjoyed what Jesse Eisenberg brought to the table, honestly. You know, I've heard some people say this and that, whatever, but I enjoyed it, especially towards the latter portion of the film when he has to sort of go against Superman in a sense. It was just, you know, you kind of realize like, wow, like this dude will go to any lengths to do what he has to do, and it's like he could be menacing, he could be funny, he could be awkward. He really stepped out of his comfort zone, in my opinion, as far as acting and performance-wise, and I really enjoyed him in this movie, that's for sure, as Lex Luthor. So now I'm going to talk some spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, please go away, come back when you've seen the film, so you can get my thoughts on it as well, and then we can have a better conversation in the comment section down below. And anyways, without further ado, I didn't want to give my thoughts on this film quite yet early on in my review because I feel like that I needed to talk about the characters and sort of like the first half of the film and how I felt about it before really giving my final thoughts on the movie. The first half of the film had that sort of political vibe to it, which I really enjoyed because I like the whole grounded in reality type aspect to it, because I really do feel that that's how us as a society would gravitate towards these metahumans, as they're called. The middle portion of the film, I honestly wanted to fall asleep. The pacing was very off. It was a little bit boring. There was a lot of talk, but I get that they had to establish a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff that they had to shoe in as well to build up for the future films, such as Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Aquaman, the Justice League, The Flash. Going into this movie, I was afraid that it might be the Amazing Spider-Man 2 of DC films. And in a way, it kind of was, but in a way, to me at least, it wasn't. I thought that they sort of handled it a little bit better than Amazing Spider-Man 2 did, whereas everything was just literally just force-fed down your throat. I felt like it was a little bit more even-placed, but at the same time, it did get a bit convoluted in some areas. Most notably, there's a scene towards the later half of the film where Bruce Wayne sends Diana Prince an email, which I found a little bit bizarre because it's like, well, Wonder Woman, like, checking emails or whatever, but at the same time, you know, she has to adapt to the present day world, so, you know, it does make sense. But it just seemed a little bit silly. There was something that Chris Stuckman said in his review where Bruce Wayne should have just titled the email that he sent to Diana Justice League Setup, because that's pretty much what it was. He got like these attachments, these folders or whatever. One of them was metahumans, which I thought was kind of cool. I let out an audible like, oh my goodness, like when I saw that. But then you got these little graphics containing one file for Wonder Woman, Cyborg, The Flash, and Aquaman. And, you know, it's kind of like, who would actually take the time to do that? But, you know, it's whatever. That's not like a big deal or anything like that. And then they showed like a little clip introducing each character. My favorite one was the Cyborg one, because I recently watched Justice League War. Yeah, I know, it took me quite a while. The way that they introduced Cyborg, I thought was very reminiscent of Justice League War, and I really enjoyed it. You had that little like weird cube thingy that sort of fused with Cyborg, and then like the rest of his body just started being built, and then his dad just shuts off the camera. I thought that was really cool. Seeing Aquaman 2 in action, a lot of people give Aquaman a lot of flack. They don't give him the respect that I feel like he deserves because he's kind of a joke character. But Jason Momoa looks awesome. I can't wait to see him in actual action come the Justice League film. But the little taste that we did get was pretty cool, and how he was able to maneuver his way through the water as quickly as he can. I think that's pretty cool. So I'm very hyped to see what they bring for Aquaman. As far as the Flash goes, his little introduction was pretty cool in the convenience store, and it was getting robbed, and he just kind of pushes the guy and then goes back to where he was. But that wasn't my favorite Easter egg for some of these characters, the introduction sort of scenes. The scene that I enjoyed the most was after the dream sequence of a post-apocalyptic future where Batman's sort of like this, in this deserty rogue type soldier outfit, and you got the parademons flying around and everything, and everyone's under Superman's regime, which was sort of cool because it was kind of like almost a bit of a nod to like the Injustice Gods Among Us video game story arc. After Bruce Wayne wakes up, this freaking portal of like lightning just shows up out of nowhere, and it's Barry Allen, it's the Flash, and he's wearing like this post-apocalyptic armor suit, and he's warning Bruce Wayne, you have to do this, you have to do that, Lois Lane is the key, and he's telling him everything that he has to do to motivate him to get off of his butt and do something about Superman. And I thought that scene was really cool. When like he came out of nowhere, I was like, oh my goodness, like I geeked out, honestly. Because if you're not aware, Barry Allen has the ability to go super fast and travel into different time zones, different time dimensions. He's able to time travel, basically. If you haven't read the Flashpoint story arc in the comic books or seen the Flashpoint Paradox film, definitely check that out. It'll give a little bit more of an explanation as to how Barry Allen was able to visit Bruce Wayne. which I don't think that that was a dream sequence as well. Like I said, there was some parts that were a bit convoluted, some parts that were a bit okay, in my opinion. Getting to the scene that everyone, in my opinion, was most looking forward to was Batman versus Superman. That is the name of the film, with the subtitle Dawn of Justice, because it's the dawn of the Justice League. Oh, Zack Snyder is very good at visuals, that's for sure. If you watch his film Watchmen, based on the graphic novel, the Alan Moore graphic novel, that was very much page for page just ripped out of the comic books, that whole film. And it was very stylized, very beautiful to look at visually. Phenomenal. Again, with Batman vs. Superman, with this film, the visuals were very good. So by the time that Batman and the Superman started fighting, it just went so quickly, because it was probably the best aspect of this film. That was probably the most well done scene in that film, them fighting, because it was just so well done, so well paced. It felt like it was definitely ripped out of The Dark Knight Returns graphic novel by Frank Miller. And even if you watch the animated version of that comic book adaptation, it's very much almost like page for page, like frame for frame. It's very well done. And it didn't dawn on me until after they stopped fighting that both Superman and Batman, their mother, share the same name. So that was pretty cool how they implemented that in terms of them finishing their fight and then them switching sides and, you know, working together. I thought that was pretty cool. Going back to what I said a little bit earlier about Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, though, how he was so evil and conniving and made Superman bow to his will in order for him to dispose of Batman. Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor kidnapped Martha Kent and just made Superman his slave, almost, you know? He was like, do this or Martha Kent dies. So he had no other choice. He tried to explain to Bruce Wayne, but Bruce Wayne wasn't having it, because he was like, no, I gotta take you out because this is gonna happen in the future, so bye-bye, no talking. There were a couple of things that I thought worked really well, but the fact that they had to cram so much into a 2.5-hour movie, you know, it made a lot of stuff just kind of all over the place. And, you know, there were some good things that I enjoyed about the movie, and then there was some stuff that I didn't enjoy about the movie. So overall, I thought it was just okay. Before going into the film, I said, I'm either going to really like this movie, or I'm going to really hate it. I didn't think that there was going to be an in-between, but I'm certainly split in the middle. I thought it was an okay film. I personally think that you should definitely go out of your way to see this film, because, you know, if you're into the whole comic book scene, or you want to see Batman and Superman on the screen, and even Wonder Woman as well, do I think it's worth buying on Blu-ray? Of course. I'm going to buy it on Blu-ray, because I'm sure it's going to look phenomenal. On top of that, the Blu-ray version of the film has an extra 30 minutes. It's an R-rated ultimate director's cut or something like that. And there were portions of the film at times where I felt that you can tell that there were certain scenes stripped out of it. Come the Blu-ray release in July, which I believe is coming out, I guess we'll see more or less what was left out, what goes where. Maybe things will make a little bit more sense, but at the same time it also runs the risk of being even more convoluted and more like slow-paced and a little bit more boring. So there's that fear factor, but I'll give it a chance. I'll still buy it anyway, of course. But I definitely do recommend you should definitely go out of your way to see this film. Before I wrap up, though, let's talk about the final act of the film where they fight Doomsday. How do they introduce Doomsday? Well, they didn't just throw him in there like they did with Venom in Spider-Man 3, I should say. They had Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor get access to Zod's ship, Zod's body. He used Zod's body in Zod's ship to create this sort of abomination of a Kryptonian, if you will. So he used his own blood and like merged it with Zod's body or whatever, and then they created Doomsday. I thought it was pretty cool. There were some visuals and some things that Doomsday did that I was in awe because it just looked awesome on screen. I really didn't have a problem with it. If anything, the trailer kind of did it an injustice with the way that they introduced him. Granted, yes, they spoiled like one of the biggest acts of the film. However, the way that he came about in the movie was really well done. I also want to make mention that I wasn't aware that Junkie XL was a composer on this film as well, alongside Hans Zimmer, of course, who did the score for Man of Steel. If you're not familiar with Junkie XL, he did the score for Mad Max Fury Road, and he just recently did Deadpool. So when I saw his name come up on the screen, I was very much excited. And the score for this movie was amazing. I want to listen to it, like, as I'm working out and just, like, driving all over the place, because it's just so... Oh my god, it was probably one of the better parts of the film as well. And also, just to make quick mention as well, I'm so glad that they didn't go the whole origin route of Batman, because it's been done to death. The same with Spider-Man. We all know how they came about. Bruce's parents get murdered in an alley, this, that, whatever. The first introduction scene in this film has to do with that. You know, they show him as a young boy, this, that, and, you know, the other. And I thought that was definitely one of the better parts of the film. It was very well done. A lot of the stuff for Batman was really, really well done. One thing that I forgot to make mention of was the fact that Batman in this movie kills. A lot of people were complaining about that he uses guns, that he shoots people, that when he fights people, he's like pretty much killing them, almost in a sense. And, you know, Bruce Wayne has always had that moral code to, like, not kill someone. He's always been on the brink of doing so, but, you know, he lets them live. How in the Dark Knight trilogy, you know, we see that, how he tells Catwoman at one point, you know, no guns, no killing, but this is completely thrown out of the window. It can be a bit contradictory because of the fact that Superman, when he came and he fought Zod, there was so much destruction and chaos, and, you know, a lot of lives were lost. So the fact that Batman doesn't quite care about that, you know, it kind of, you know, makes you wonder, like, okay, but Superman did it, but it's okay that you can do it, but he can't, you know what I mean? But at the same time, the only people that you do see dying are the bad guys. You know, he's in the Batmobile or the Batwing or stuff like that, shooting them to death and whatever. Things are exploding, so his whole code is, you know, thrown out the window, as I made mention of. But, you know, again, it's only bad guys and stuff like that, so it's a mixed bag, honestly. It all depends on how you feel. My apologies, that was my phone. Did I have a problem with it? No, not really. I mean, I thought it was cool, honestly. You know, just the visual aspect behind it, but I can understand how a lot of people will get mad because that's completely out of the Batman character, but I guess it works in this cinematic universe. Again, it was just a whole bunch of stuff. It was sort of mishmashed all over the place. Overall, I just find this film okay. Definitely see it, because you really do have to sort of formulate your own opinion on this film. You can't really judge it based off of others. Do I think it deserves all the flack that it's getting from the critics? Absolutely not. But I don't think it's, you know, deserving of such a high spot like a movie like Star Wars or Deadpool, something like that, if you catch my drift. It's just somewhere in the middle. Some people will really love this movie, some people would just think it's okay. But I don't think it's a movie to bash or hate like Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't think it's anywhere near that level of low, in all honesty. So, then again, a lot of critics don't quite respect the source material where it comes from, or is really familiar with the whole comic book universe as well. But I honestly think that you should definitely see it to really get your own opinion on it, and hopefully you guys will feel the same way. Before I do go, though, I'm glad that they went the direction that they went. Almost an homage to the Superman Death of Superman story, and the fact that Superman does die, but at the same time he comes back a little bit later on, because that last final shot of the film is the coffin, and then you see the dirt rise, and then that's it. So it's obvious that, you know, Superman was just pretty much knocked out, but he obviously is going to be coming back. So I thought that was pretty cool that they went that direction. It definitely gave it that much more emotional impact. Whereas, and I hate to, again, make comparisons or this, that, and the other, or complain about another movie, but in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they shouldn't have had Spider-Man come back at the end. If they would have had him still grieving over the death of Gwen Stacy, that would have given it that much more dramatic heft that I feel that it would have needed, or that it definitely needed. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of the film, what you guys thought of the soundtrack, the visuals, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, Jesse Eisenberg, the setup for the Justice League, and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed it, please like it, favorite it, share it with your friends on social media, Facebook, Twitter, or whatever it is that you use, and most importantly, subscribe so you can get more awesome movie reviews just like this. And we have a fan film coming up. It is in the process of being filmed, and it should be up hopefully sometime in April. So definitely stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you all in the next video.